Hello, and welcome to The Art of Lost and Found, a podcast that explores the creative relationship between our inner and outer worlds. It's a creative exploration through stories, insights, resources, and tools to help you intentionally design your life and work. I'm your host, Brooke Eston, also known as the Creative Amplifier. I'm part strategist, part designer, part coach, and part artist. And I'm dedicated to helping fellow creatives bridge the gaps between those big dreams and practical realities. Now let's get into it. Today's show is a dive into an often overlooked fear that I've seen block nearly every one of my clients from living the life that they're really longing for. It's called the upper limit problem. I first heard about this concept of an upper limit problem in a book written by a man named Gay Hendricks. The book is called The Big Leap. I've read it, I think, 4 or 5 times now over the last 10 years because it's one of those books that every time I read it, I get something new from it. Let me explain what the upper limit problem is. Often we've heard about something similar along the lines of something called the fear of success. It might sound counterintuitive and you might not immediately relate to it, but it seems to be one of those fears that's just underlying everything else. And really what it comes down to is a fear of change. It's a fear of growth. And particularly, it's a fear of outgrowing the life that you currently have. The upper limit problem goes something like this. Upper limit problem is the human tendency to butt up against limits in an attempt to grow. So in other words, it's kind of like a self-sabotage that happens subconsciously when we get that taste of something great. It's something that challenges our sense of worthiness around being able to fully embrace something epic. We often talk about a fear of failure. We all have it. It's very easy to admit. Of course, we don't want to look foolish. We don't want to fall flat on our faces. We don't want to be publicly embarrassed or humiliated or shamed, right? This is a common understanding, fear of failure. But on the flip side is a fear of success. This is the upper limit problem. Oftentimes, we aren't consciously aware of it because it's deeply embedded in a lot of other things. It really comes from that core human fear of change. When you think about your biggest, most aspirational dreams, how do you see the context of your life? Do you see yourself living in the same place, having the same relationships, wearing the same clothes, being in the same environment, doing the same hobbies, doing the same habits? Or do you see that leveling up, changing everything that you know about your life? This is where the fear of success really takes root because it makes us realize that we need to change. If we want to be truly successful, if we want to access the life of our dreams, that means a lot of things are going to change. It requires us to level up. And many of us feel incredibly intimidated by the idea of needing to make change across all areas of our life. Let that sink in for a minute. When you think about your biggest goals and dreams, what in your life would be different if you attain that? I think there's some element of grief that becomes present in the world of change, right? You need to grieve what has been lost, what has been left behind. Just like in a relationship, I bet probably everybody listening to this can relate. When you break up with somebody or you're broken up with, Even if you knew that that person wasn't right for you, even if there were fundamental flaws in that relationship that at times made it impossible, it's still really sad and it's still really hard. It's because change is challenging. It's confronting. It makes us look at our life from a different perspective, and it gives way to sort of a blank canvas. And that can oftentimes be incredibly intimidating. The way that this often comes out, this fear of success, is self-sabotage. It's canceling plans at the last minute. It's not sticking to your schedule or your commitments. It's deciding to go out with friends in the middle of the day when you have responsibility. It is connected to something so much deeper. It's connected to our fear of change. It's connected to our self-esteem. And ultimately, it's connected to our feelings of worthiness. Marissa Peer, she's a world famous psychologist. She says that every single one of her clients who has been blocked, and this woman has seen thousands, if not tens of thousands of clients, she says that all of it comes down to a feeling of unworthiness. And until you're able to tackle this feeling, this core concept of not being deserving of your dreams, not being deserving of the amount of money that you want to make, not being deserving of being in the same room as your idols or the people that you aspire to be like, this all comes down to a feeling of you're not good enough. You don't deserve it. You can't hold that much success. To me, this feels like the same thing that Gay Hendricks is talking about when he talks about the upper limit problem. This is where we self-sabotage because we don't feel deserving of that next level of success. I've definitely experienced this in my life, and I've seen this with nearly all of my clients. It often looks like procrastination. It looks like making excuses. It looks like not showing up, not doing your marketing, not doing your finances, not doing your customer experience, not doing the things that you know are going to take you to the next level. Setting that strong foundation so that you can build something that can continue to grow and evolve. Fear of change affects all of us. There's important value in this emotion, right? Change creates uncertainty. And if you have too much uncertainty, it can be incredibly unsettling. None of us are going to thrive if we're feeling ungrounded, like there isn't a solid foundation there. But the way to overcome this problem, the feelings of unworthiness, the feelings of having an upper limit problem, is really to show up for yourself. Allow yourself to feel pleasure and joy and a sense of accomplishment in small, manageable things. We got to build the muscle first before we can really carry a lot of weight. A lot of people in the online space talk about energetics, manifesting, wealth expansion, mindset. This is so important. Regardless of how you want to frame it, the concept is the same. If you don't feel that you are deserving, if you don't feel that you're capable of holding your next level of success, then you're not going to allow yourself to have it. Either subconsciously or consciously, you're going to do something that just pulls the rug from underneath you, sets you back to your comfort zone. We gravitate to what is known, to what feels comfortable to us. This is why you see women who were abused as children getting into relationships with men who abuse them, right? We have a pattern mind. We look for what's familiar and known to us because in sometimes some really twisted ways, that familiarity makes us feel safe. even when it's blocking us from being able to access all that's available to us. I heard somebody say the other day that success in your business is 20% strategy and 80% mindset. I happen to believe that as well. By doing the deeper work to get rid of that heaviness, that gunk that's filling and blocking your system from expansion, that's how you're able to move into the next level. So, how do we deal with this? What are some of the practical things that we can do to move us from that place of unworthiness and self-sabotage and really in that upper limit problem to actually solving it so that we can fully show up, that we can believe that we are worth it, that we can show up and do the things that we actually need to do to get there instead of just imagining it or talking about it or saying that we're going to do it. The good news is that it's a pretty great remedy. Basically, all we need to do is allow ourselves to feel good, to feel gratitude, to feel awe, to feel a sense of pride. We have to start small though. Just like if you're starting to lift weights and you've never done that before, you're going to want to start with something relatively light. If you go straight for the heavy weights, you're not going to be able to do it. And it's probably actually going to reinforce a lot of those limiting beliefs that you have. So allow yourself the pleasure of awe, of gratitude, of pride, of a sense of accomplishment. Take small steps. You have to warm up that muscle. You have to build that muscle. And you do that by small bite-sized chunks, right? One step at a time. That's how you can start to increase your tolerance for joy, for pleasure, for success, for having a sense of pride and accomplishment. Focus on slow, steady, and consistent growth. So, how can we do this practically? How can we overcome self-sabotage and grow beyond that self-imposed upper limit? Here's some actionable steps that might help you get started. The first is to cultivate awareness. Take a moment to reflect on your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Are there any patterns of self-sabotage that you can tap into? Anything that you know you're doing that's holding you back? Acknowledge them without judgment. Journal, meditate, talk to a friend. Even better, talk to a therapist. Read books. Listen to podcasts like this that help you cultivate awareness so that you can bring it from your subconscious into your conscious thinking, because that's where you can actually work with it. That's where change can take place. So be aware of your fears and allow yourself to grieve the release of what you're outgrowing. Second, reframe. Challenge negative self-talk and replace it with empowering statements. This can be something like affirmations. That's a great tool. I've personally used them a lot. And although I feel quite silly doing it initially, they end up being a game changer. Remind yourself of your worthiness and your capabilities, even in the face of doubt. Get some small wins, build momentum. Celebrate your milestones rather than over-focusing on the goals that are still further away. Use your senses to cultivate pleasure, to feel gratitude, to tap into awe, and to feel connected to yourself and to other people. Third is expand your comfort zone. Embrace discomfort and lean into growth opportunities. Consciously and intentionally move beyond your upper limits. Start that podcast. Raise your prices. Say yes to the opportunities that intimidate you. Practice rejection. Do it in low-stake environments. Get comfortable with rejection in really low-stake environments. right? Like asking a taxi driver for a free ride, asking the Starbucks barista to give you the coffee for free, asking a stranger to borrow $10. Like, these types of low stakes environments can really help you build the muscle of rejection. It's so important. Practice rejection and being with your feelings. Recognize when you're being judged and keep showing up anyway. This is as simple as reading comments on social media. Everybody is judging everybody all of the time. It doesn't stop anybody else from being successful. A lot of times people are judging us because of their own stuff that they're projecting out onto us. But regardless, it's intangible. It doesn't actually block us unless we allow it to. Practicing how you can expand your comfort zone is how you can expand your tolerance for discomfort so that you can increase your capacity for pleasure and get a greater sense of pride. If we want to increase our pleasure, then we must increase our tolerance for pain. If not, then we just stay comfortably numb in the flat line of the middle. A lot of us live there. And although it's somewhat comfortable, it can be excruciating, especially when you know that you're capable or destined for greater things, but you keep getting in your own way. And then finally, seek support. Surround yourself with a supportive community. This could be fellow entrepreneurs, mentors, coaches, anyone who can offer guidance and encouragement along the way. So I say invest in that coach. Sign up for that program. Participate in that community. Show up for that event. No one does it alone, despite how it looks. Everyone doing something great has a support network behind them. So don't be fooled. Now remember, overcoming self-sabotage is a journey. It's not a destination. The upper limit problem continues to grow as you grow. So the upper limit that you have now perhaps is not going to be the upper limit that you have next year or the year after that. It is a journey. It is not a destination. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to show up and do the work, to confront your inner self-saboteurs. Trust me when I say that you have the power to rewrite your story and to create a life of abundance and fulfillment that also will serve as inspiration of what's possible for other people. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Art of Lost and Found. Keep creating, keep believing, and keep pushing past those self-imposed upper limits. Until next time, take care.